Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Non-Script Ramblings. I am Kendall Richardson. Thank you so much for joining me. Sorry this is a few days late. I did want to have this out earlier, but you know, life happens. But here we are regardless. This is my first episode in my run of reviews on WandaVision that I'm going to be giving you guys. I don't know if you heard that motorbike go by, but that's, you know, that's the conditions we're working with here. It's fine. So, yeah, I'm very excited to be talking today about basically the first ever thing in Marvel's Phase 4 in the MCU. It's finally here. Just finally. I'm so happy and so excited. And yeah, there's not too much to discuss just yet, which is really interesting. And yeah, considering this is the first, not only the first of the Phase 4 things from the MCU, but it's the first TV series that Marvel Cinematic Universe has really given us, you know, unless you really want to count Agents of S.w.o.r.d. and all the Netflix shows, which are sort of MCU adjacent, I suppose, because there's not too much crossover with the films. However, now going forward, these shows and the films are going to be intermingling, directly involving each other and affecting each other. Consequences will be abound and abundant everywhere, starting with WandaVision. And yeah, I think we're just going to dive in now. I'm going to dive in with my thoughts. We're starting with episode 1. No episode titles, I should also mention up front. They're just called episode 1, episode 2. So I don't know if that is... I'd say that's probably keeping in theme with WandaVision being a kind of... I'm not going to say satire or spoof because that's not really what it is. But it, you know, the fact that it's taken this format of being inspired by sitcoms and sitcom tropes from, you know, the 50s onwards, that, you know, maybe just calling it episode 1 is more of a just a, you know, this is an episode of television, you know, TV show within a TV show sort of situation. So that's kind of what I think about that. Just before we dive right in, I gotta say, I could not stop smiling when the Marvel Studios opening, you know, logo started and the music started playing, and I love that so much. It's just become this big, I don't know, it used to be such a small little thing that they would do, but then it's, as time's gone on and the MCU's become more popular, it's just become this big epic unveiling of all our characters and little clips of them in our films within our logo, and it just I don't know, it just made me so happy. First MCU content in 18 months plus. And yeah, I got so excited. And then it cuts straight to black and white straight away. So we're no pretense whatsoever. We are straight in to this 1950s setting. And the first episode is basically an inspiration, you know, inspired by the Dick Van Dyke Show, inspired by I Love Lucy and, you know, other early sitcoms of early TV in the 1950s. And they really captured it quite well, I think. That's the one thing I'm loving about both episode 1 and 2 so far, is that they've really nailed these sitcom tropes so perfectly, and they're just beautiful, gorgeous to look at, shot supremely well. I love the addition of the laugh track as well. It really adds that extra element of you're watching a sitcom. And especially the way that Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany are portraying their characters. Wanda and Vision just really kind of hamming it up in the sitcom-y way, I think is really, really nice. They're doing such a great job, both of them, I've got to say. I'm really, really impressed that that everything's being played completely straight. This is just, there's no, you know, they're just going for it all out, and I love it. Kathryn Hahn is another actress that I've been a fan of for quite some time, and she is just, you know, a spark of joy on screen every time she pops up in anything, and to see her here, she's just such a welcome presence, and she's really, again, same with everyone else, she's really going for this, you know, over the top 50s, 60s housewife, with just this, you know, everything's exaggerated, everything's just lots of movement and just walking around, and just the way her voice goes as well. I really love what she's doing. Her character's really interesting because I think the speculation online, although not confirmed, and probably will be confirmed later on, it seems likely given on the trailers for WandaVision, where we've seen, you know, the Halloween episode where she's dressed up as a witch, that Agnes is actually Agatha Harkness, which is a very villainous witch in the Marvel Comics, who was also a mentor to Wanda at one point. So there's a lot of speculation as to she's behind this entire thing. She's the reason Wanda has created this sitcom reality. You know, that it's, and that Wanda's lost control of it. Like, it's all part of Agnes's big plan, whatever that is. Don't know. I'm not entirely sold on that just yet, because I mean, I really kind of like and subscribe to the theory of Wanda is grieving Vision's loss after the you know, events of Infinity War and Endgame, and she's just really missing him so much to the point where she's decided to manipulate reality to her liking and found a way to bring him back. Whether or not Agnes has anything to do with that, in terms of maybe Wanda meets Agnes between WandaVision and Endgame and kind of leads her down this path of, I'm going to show you how to create a reality that you can, you know, live out and live with Vision in, you know, and obviously there's a catch. That's pretty crazy, but yeah, that's, I don't know, something along those lines I think makes sense, but I'm looking forward to more being revealed to do with Agnes as we go along. I think she's very intriguing, especially the fact that she's always mentioning her husband Ralph, and he's nowhere to be found at all. Nowhere to be found, so that's also a little concerning, but yeah, maybe we'll meet Ralph later on, who knows. What else can I talk about episode 1? Okay, the one thing I love about what WandaVision's doing so far, along with the TV tropiness of it all, is the fact that they're actually putting ads in this, like it's an actual broadcast, and I thought that was a really clever touch, and kind of reflective of Wanda's journey and Wanda's growth, I suppose, because the first ad in the first episode is you know, an ad for a Stark Industries toaster for some reason. I don't know why a toaster was the object of choice, but I don't know if that has anything to do with Wanda's, I don't know, journey or relationship with Tony Stark. I mean, we all know after seeing Age of Ultron that, you know, pretty much the reason that Wanda is who she is Scarlet Witch is because of Tony Stark, and how, you know, her and her brother Pietro held on to this vengeance to do with him after, you know, there was a Stark Industries branded bomb that landed in their house, and they were trapped in there for 5 days and couldn't move because they thought it was going to go off and they were all going to die. And yeah, so she held on to that grudge, but obviously worked through that pain by the end of Ultron and came to work with Tony Stark. So I imagine this popping up in the first episode is a reference to that. I also like the touch of when the toaster is activated, it is there's an Iron Man sound effect added on, which I thought was really nice. And then the first of a few colour moments that we get throughout these 2 episodes appears. The red light comes on the toaster. Everything else is black and white in this entire episode except for that red light on the toaster, and that's just, I don't know why, but it's curious, and I think it means something. It kind of, not to go into episode 2 too much, but it kind of goes on with, I feel like the one colour, until everything turns into colour at the end of episode 2, the one colour we're seeing the most of outside of the black and white is red. First with this red dot, and then in episode 2 we see the the toy helicopter that's red and gold. It's also Iron Man coloured. I don't know if it's a S.w.o.r.d helicopter because the S.w.o.r.d logo is on there, and I'll talk about S.w.o.r.D more in a moment. But it's red and gold. I don't know if S.w.o.r.D's colours are Iron Man colours as well, or is that just supposed to be Wanda processing that and that's how she's interpreted. I don't know. No answers, no idea. Speculation, purely. And then, obviously, when Dottie cuts her hand, after she breaks the glass in her hand, we see her red blood. So there's just, yeah, red is, we know Scarlet Witch, Scarlet's red, obviously, so maybe that's just a link to Wanda and to her, you know, to her comic book counterpart being a red character in that aspect. I don't know, maybe that's what it is. It's a nice little touch, though. I think it's really cool. What else? Oh yeah, in the ad actually, there's a little bit of foreshadowing. On the wall in the background behind the actors in the toaster ad, there is a lobster ornament on the wall. And at the end of the episode, obviously, one of the lobsters that Wanda made fly out of the window because she lost control of all the cooking, ended up on the front door at the end as a door knocker, and that was a nice little gag. But it was a second time on my second viewing. I noticed that on the background in the ad, and I was like, ooh, I like that. I'm glad I noticed that. Not that it's a big deal, but I live for little Easter eggs like that, so I thought that was really cool. What else can I talk about? Oh yes, the ad. Still the ad. One thing I should mention. The slogan for Stark Industries, or at least for the toaster, is "Forget the past, this is your future." And I honestly think that lines up perfectly with my theory about Wanda creating this herself to process the loss of Vision, because she doesn't want to remember any of the bad stuff that happened to her because she lived through some trauma. Like, most of her life has been quite traumatic, you know, living and growing up in Sokovia, you know, war-torn little country in Eastern Europe, and you know, the encounter with, you know, the Stark Industries bomb, and then her and her brother, you know, committing themselves to Baron von Strucker and his experiments that turned them into the enhanced beings that we now know, or sadly only Wanda remains now, but that's obvious. That's got to be, you know, this is your future. She's forgetting the past. She just wants to be here and now, and this is her future. Living out this life, free of any trauma. It's just a normal life, her and Vision, and that's all that matters. And that's why she's here. So I feel like that's got to be connected to that, if you ask me. Yeah, so talking about I suppose the ending of the episode, where we have the dinner, where Mr. and Mrs. Hart come over. That was kind of another very classic sitcom trope, I think, you know, having the boss and the boss's wife over for dinner to impress them. Also the fact that Wanda and Vision, neither of them could remember why there was a heart on the calendar for today's date, which was a little unsettling to me at first, just because obviously, you know, they know not all is right, but they're ignoring it, or at least Wanda is. And so they can't remember what the date is, but they kind of play that up as, you know, oh, both of them think they're on the same page, but actually they both have different ideas, and it makes for some great comedic bits in this episode that I really enjoyed. A moment in this episode that had me laughing in hysterics, actually, was there's the time when Mrs. Hart, played wonderfully by Deborah Jo Rupp, also a fan of hers from that 70s show fame, she keeps trying to go into the kitchen to help Wanda, and and then she opens the sliding, like, the doors between the lounge and the kitchen, and then Wanda's like mid-levitating everything, cooking, you know, in her way that only Wanda could, and Vision just starts singing Yakety Yak, and my god, did I lose my freaking mind. I thought it was so funny. Especially because he was commenting earlier in the episode of how nonsensical that that song was when it was on the radio at work. So I thought that was a lovely callback to that moment. And then just, yeah, the way Paul Bettany performed it, it was very, very funny. I really, really liked it. And then he goes on to pull out a ukulele and sing Old MacDonald on the couch, to which Mr. Hart is most unimpressed. Played by Fred Melamed. I've seen him, I think he's like a character actor that pops up in a lot of things. I definitely have seen him in things before. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I know I've seen him before. He's quite good. I really like him as Mr. Hart as well. He's really good. Yeah, I think just to wrap up episode 1, the only kind of hint really in this entire episode that something is not right is right at the end when the camera pans out and reveals that, you know, someone is watching this on a screen in like a facility, or I just imagine some kind of surveillance van, and you see S.w.o.r.d logos on to the left of the screen, and then on a notebook on the desk, and that's all we get. That's it. That is it. And then we're on to episode 2, which came out straight away after episode 1, and that was awesome. That was really exciting to find out, like the week or so before, that not only was WandaVision going to be 9 episodes instead of 6, we were going to get the first 2 episodes on the same day. And I'm so glad we did, because this first episode was not enough of a glimpse into what's going on, but I guess that's kind of the point. That little kind of cliffhanger thing at the end is just enough to make you go, something weird's going on, don't know what it is, must keep watching. So episode 2, called episode 2, moves us into the 1960s, where we're kind of being inspired now by Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie, especially Bewitched with those opening credits, which I adored, the animation style. It was exactly like the classic Bewitched episodes, which I really, really liked. That was a nice touch. Really, really well done. There's a sign in the opening credits that says "Welcome to Westview." Westview obviously is this fictional town, maybe real town, who knows, but I think it's fictional. And nice to see that it's also Westview, WandaVision. I think that's on purpose as well. I don't know if anyone else picked up on that, but I kind of figured that was a thing. And on the sound, speaking words, on the sign it says "Home is where you make it," and I think that goes without saying. We all know what that's in reference to. So I thought that was a nice little touch. This episode I really enjoyed. I liked it more than the first one, just because I really loved this element of Wanda and Vision performing like magic tricks in this community show for the children. Oh god, was that not creepy? Or was that not creepy? And the introduction of Miss High Society Dottie, played wonderfully by Emma Caulfield, who Buffy fans will recognise as Anya. So happy to see her in this, and in the MCU. As a big Buffy fan myself, I'd lost my shit when she popped up on the screen. I was like, yes, excellent. Yeah, and she was wonderful. She was an absolute joy. I mean, she's always a joy to watch in whatever she does, but yeah, it was really nice to see her pop up here, and she played Dottie perfectly, really nailing that kind of, you know, she just thinks she's top dog, she's queen of the world, she's queen of the neighborhood, and whatever she says goes, kind of bossy, know-it-all sort of queen gossip character. Very, very much that kind of stereotype of character, but yeah, she did such a great job of it. So I hope she comes back in future episodes. That would be really cool. What else can we talk about? So when they're rehearsing at the start, I don't know if you guys noticed, when Wanda brings out the Cabinet of Mysteries, on the top of said cabinet is a rendering of the Mind Stone on the cabinet. I thought that was a nice little Easter egg reference there. That was really cool. Another cool Easter egg is the fact that their stage names for this little magic show that they're putting on are Glamour and Delusion, which is a direct reference to Where are their names? Glynis and Ilya Zarkov. From the comics, who were superpowered magicians who actually use their magic, like use their abilities to perform magic tricks on stage, and they went by the names Glamour and Delusion. And they also interact with Wanda and Vision in a run of comics too. So I thought that was a really nice nod to the comics. Very, very, very cool. What else? Okay, we get another character is introduced who's going to be a major player going forward, although she's known as Geraldine at the moment. That is actually Monica Rambeau, who you should recognize as Lieutenant Trouble from Captain Marvel. She's Maria Rambeau's daughter, and we knew going in she was going to be in this, played by Teyonah Parris. She's already kind of turning out to be a good supporting character. I really liked her in this episode. I don't know if you guys noticed the kind of confusion on her face when she was thinking of her name, and then she said Geraldine. I was expecting her to say Monica, but for some reason, yeah, Wanda has conjured her a different identity. I don't know, so begs the question, is anyone actually, you know, known by their real names in this reality? Who knows? I mean, as I mentioned earlier, Agnes is, I think, actually Agatha, so I guess we'll see. But no, really nice to see her first popping up. She's gonna be recurring throughout the rest of the show, and I can't wait to find out more about how she's involved with what's going on with Wanda. And what's happening here, so she's really, really cool. Yeah, what else do we have? So heaps more S.w.o.r.d references in this episode. First with the there's like a repetitive banging that seems to be kind of a recurring thing throughout this episode. It's in the cold open at the start, although they, you know, play it off as trees banging against the house, and then there's another bang, and Wanda goes outside and she finds this little toy helicopter, which is the only thing in colour, and it's red and gold, as I mentioned earlier, and it's got the S.w.o.r.d logo on the side. And then at the end of the episode, the big thing that I really liked and really had me intrigued was more banging after Wanda announces she's pregnant, and I bet you those are her twins. From the comics, and they go outside and they see a manhole cover being moved, and then this gentleman rises up and you see all these bees, and he's dressed in a beekeeper outfit for some reason, but he's got the S.w.o.r.d logo on his back. I don't know if anyone noticed that as well. And then Wanda just says no, and then everything rewinds back to the moment where she said, and she says again, is this really happening? And I love the way that line then takes on a new meaning when heard the second time from her, even though she says it the exact same way. I thought that was beautifully done. You know, first time she says it, she's like, oh, my God, I'm pregnant. Is this really happening? And then the second time it's like, is this really happening? Is all of this what's going on? I thought that was beautifully done. But yeah, S.w.o.r.d. Really cool to see S.w.o.r.D finally popping up in the MCU. They were hinted at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, which is, you know, coincidentally the last time we saw anything MCU related. And yeah, basically they've taken on a new meaning within the MCU. I've been doing some research. It turns out they've actually changed the meaning of the acronym for the MCU, which is a very interesting choice. But here goes. The comic acronym S.w.o.r.D stands for Sentient World Observation and Response Department. Now in the MCU, they have changed it to Sentient Weapon Observation and Response Division. So that kind of takes on a new meaning, I think, because Sentient World kind of, you know, really emphasizes the fact that it's set in space. You know, from my understanding is, even though I haven't read a whole bunch of the comics, but from what I know, S.w.o.r.D is basically a sister kind of department to S.h.i.e.L.D. in the fact that S.w.o.r.D kind of monitors the intergalactic threats, I suppose, which is why, you know, in the end of Far From Home, that post-credit scene, we see Nick Fury on a spaceship with Skrulls. and that seems to hint at that. But here we have what is known as the sentient weapon observation and response division, and I think sentient weapon pertains to Wanda. So this division is responsible for monitoring threats like Wanda, and I feel like maybe that's how Doctor Strange kind of comes into it, because one of the big things that Doctor Strange says in Thor Ragnarok to Thor when they're in New York is, you know, the fact that Doctor Strange keeps an eye on, you know, world threats that enter his domain because he is the Sorcerer Supreme, that's his job, and Loki is one of those threats, right? Loki would definitely be classed as a sentient a sentient weapon, absolutely. And so I think that is exactly what Wanda is. She is a sentient weapon, because we know how powerful she is. She's the most powerful, I'd be willing to argue she's the most powerful person in the entire MCU. I mean, next to Captain Marvel and Thor, of course, but she's, you know, what we're seeing so far, she clearly has advanced in her abilities and what she can do quite severely, to the point where an organization like S.w.o.r.d would need to come in and intervene. And, you know, during that really great scene with Wanda and Dottie, and someone breaks through on the radio and then for a moment snaps them both out of it. Not to reference Thanos, but snaps them both out of it, to the point where Dottie's like, who is that voice? Who are you? Like, they're confused as all hell. And then the music goes back to normal and it's fine. And that's, you know, when she breaks the glass and makes that really weird joke about housewives cleaning blood off white linen and how they should do it themselves. I thought that was very, very unsettling. But yeah, and there's a lot to unpack in this second episode, I think. Also, should mention the other ad that takes place in this episode. It's for Strucker branded watches, which was interesting. Obviously, as I explained earlier, Strucker plays a big part in Wanda's journey through the MCU. He's part of the reason, you know, following, you know, Wanda and Pietro's desire for vengeance against Tony Stark. The reason why they have their powers, because they let him experiment on them. And yeah, we haven't seen Strucker since Age of Ultron, but, you know, he obviously, yeah, like I said, plays a big part in Wanda's story. So to see him pop up in this ad makes sense. So it really has me curious as to who else will pop up going forward in ads. I could imagine maybe Hawkeye, or Captain America in some way, Vision himself, I guess. I don't know, we'll see. But there was a slogan in the watch ad that was nice. He'll make time for you. And obviously it's a cool kind of watch ad slogan, because time, watches, blah blah blah. But I think it's because, you know, Strucker took the time to actually, you know, experiment on Wanda and Pietro and turn them into these weapons, these sentient weapons, I'd say, that they are now, or that at least Wanda now is. I wish Pietro was still around. He was great. He was really great. Disappointing, but yeah, I don't know. Kind of a not as strong connection as the Tony Stark, the Stark Industries toaster slogan, but I think that's kind of what that means. Anyway, what else? What else can I mention? Okay, yeah, I think the last thing I'll mention before I move, wrap up, is how much I loved Paul Bettany's gum drunk vision during this episode. I thought that was just brilliant, phenomenal, fantastic, so funny. Paul Bettany crushed it so well, just to see him kind of let loose and have fun. His voice changed, his mannerisms changed. I love that every time he would flourish, he would say he was flourishing as he flourished. It was so funny. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, that the whole magic act sequence was just a lot of fun to watch, super entertaining and very reminiscent of you know, something that would happen in Bewitched or I Dream of Jeannie, where, you know, the husband's doing something that the wife needs to fix using her magic kind of thing. So I just, yeah, I don't know, I thought that was really, really nice. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about WandaVision episode 1 and 2, so I think I'm going to wrap it up there. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you. Comment below your thoughts. Do you agree with any of the little theories that I've posited, or are my Easter eggs right or wrong? Just, you know, comment below, let me know your thoughts, share the video around, like and subscribe to FREDtheAILEN Productions, please, for more content. I'm going to be doing these videos weekly going forward. Hopefully we'll try to get my video on episode 3 out a bit sooner than this one, but nevertheless they will be on the way. So again, thank you so much. I've been a Kendall Richardson, and you've just experienced non-scripted ramblings.